For 40 years, nobody could stop him. Nobody could explain him. The galactic crime lord who called to the sky.
Luminous of Monstar!
Those words, that name, Monstar, galactic crime lord, sovereign of the skies of Limbo, the escapee of Penal Planet 10. The SilverHawks faced him every episode. They stopped him every time, and every single time he came back, more powerful, more dangerous, more inevitable. The animated series told us Monstar was the villain, but what nobody tells you about those 3 words he spoke every single episode is that they were never just a catchphrase. They were a confession. And hidden in plain sight for 40 years was the darkest secret the show never explained. Before we talk about Monstar, we need to talk about a pattern and the animation studios of that era. And when you line them up side by side, something extraordinary emerges. In Eternia, a young prince raises a sword to the sky and calls upon the power of Castle Grayskull. He doesn't own that power, he borrows it. Something ancient, something imprisoned within those walls, lends its strength and transforms him into something greater than himself. In Third Earth, a decaying sorcerer rises from his sarcophagus, extends his arms toward 4 shadowed figures, and calls upon the ancient spirits of evil. He doesn't generate that power either, he channels it. Something that predates Third Earth itself chose this vessel, this rotting body, and pours its darkness through him every time he performs the ritual. On the surface, these are 2 different stories. On the inside, they are the same arrangement. A mortal vessel, an ancient source of power, a ritual of invocation, a transformation that neither the Prince of Eternia nor Mum-Ra fully control. And then there is Monstar. He raises his eye toward the light streaming through the prison window. He speaks his invocation. The star answers, across space, across time, and the transformation begins, which brings us back to the question, what exactly is the Moonstar of Limbo? The show never answered it. Not once in 65 episodes. The star is presented as a fact, a constant, an external force that responds to Monstar's call and amplifies him beyond his natural limits. But here is what the show never explained. Why does Monstar need to invoke it at all? If this were simply a natural power built into his biology, he would not need to ask. He would not need a ritual. He would not need a prison window pointed at a specific point in the sky. But the power has conditions, and conditions, in every story ever told, imply an agreement. Consider the evidence the show itself provides. Monstar has been operating for over 300 years. He survived long enough to build a criminal empire spanning multiple star systems. He was captured, imprisoned on a maximum security planet, and he still escaped. Repeatedly, not through brute force, not through cleverness alone. The star responds every time he calls, regardless of walls, regardless of distance, regardless of what the SilverHawks do to stop him. And here is something that 40 years of fans never stopped to notice. Not the cartoon, not the 7 issues of the Star Comics series published by Marvel from 1987 to 1988. Not a single page in any of those comics was ever dedicated to explaining who Monstar really was, where his power came from, or how he survived 3 centuries. 7 chances, 0 answers. And that is where the theory takes its shape. What if the Moonstar of Limbo is not a star? What if it is an entity? Something ancient, something that exists between dimensions, something that chose Monstar the same way the ancient spirits of evil chose Mum-Ra. Not as a servant, as a vessel, as a host for a power that needed a body in the physical world. Mum-Ra's arrangement is explicit. He serves the ancient spirits of evil. He performs their will, and in exchange, they sustain him. They amplify him. They keep his rotting body functional across millennia. His immortality is not a gift, It is the cost of the arrangement. Monstar's arrangement is never named, but the structure is identical. A being who should have been defeated 100 times over. A power that renews itself through ritual invocation. A transformation that goes beyond anything his natural biology could produce. A longevity that defies every physical law of his universe. He couldn't die, but he couldn't truly be free either. Too powerful to imprison permanently. Too bound to escape completely. Every time Monstar raises his hands to the sky and speaks that invocation, he is not drawing on his own strength. He is renewing a pact. He is reminding something ancient that he is still its vessel. And this is where something happened in 1986 that nobody was meant to notice. They hired the same voice actor for both, Earl Hammond. The man who gave Mumra his voice, that ancient, resonant, commanding presence, the same cadence, the same authority, the same sense of something vast and old, speaking through a body it merely occupies. This is not a coincidence of casting. In 2025, Dynamite Entertainment launched a brand new SilverHawks series. A modern reboot with a new creative team, new art, new storylines. And the writer of that series, Ed Brisson, said something in an interview that stopped us cold. He confirmed that the secret behind the true reason for Monstar's elaborate prison break is the biggest threat in the entire Limbo galaxy. That the timing wasn't coincidental. That something else was coming. He didn't explain what. He just confirmed the mystery is real. 40 years after the show aired, 7 Star Comics issues, a brand new Dynamite series. And still, no one has explained where Monstar actually came from, or what is really behind the Moonstar of Limbo. In 2026, Dynamite Entertainment published the crossover that nobody expected. Thundercats x SilverHawks. 2 universes always kept separate, finally brought together on the page. And the writers treated the 2 mythologies as naturally compatible. As if they always belonged to the same cosmology. As if the darkness of Third Earth and the shadow of Limbo were always neighbors in the same space between dimensions. The animated series never showed you that connection. But the people who know these universes best apparently believed it was always there. Which brings us back to Monstar. Not as a villain, not as a crime lord, but as a being who made a choice, somewhere in his past, in a moment the show never depicted. A choice that gave him power, longevity, and inevitability, and a choice that cost him something he never got back. The SilverHawks always stopped Monstar, but they never destroyed him. And if you watch the end of every episode carefully, Monstar does not retreat in defeat. He retreats with purpose, as if the agreement has already been renewed. As if the star is already waiting for the next invocation. On the surface, he was the villain of Hawkhaven. On the inside, something far older, looking out through his eye at the star it never left. So here is the question. If Monstar is a vessel, is he the villain of this story? Or is he the first victim, a pawn in a game far larger than anything the Limbo galaxy ever imagined? If this video made you see a character you thought you already knew in a whole new light, share it with someone who grew up watching SilverHawks. And if you want to know the dark origin of another classic villain that TV kept hidden from you, subscribe to the channel. Because the next video is about a character who seemed harmless, but had a deeply disturbing past. See you then.